Hey guys, it's your girl Jaylah, and we are back with Tech It Up with Cafe Cultura. I'm so excited to be back and kicking it off with an amazing guest. I want to start off by saying thank you to everyone who has been voting for us for the Latin Podcast Awards. Really excited about that. And you haven't voted, you could still get your vote in. The link will be provided. And not only that, all you got to do is click the little star one time only. That's it. We appreciate you guys and all of your following. And let's get started. Right now, I have with me founder of Zippy, Kwame. Hi,
Hello.
Kwame. How are
Hi, Jaylah.
you?
I'm doing well. Thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
You know,
I'm good. How are you?
I've been practicing your last name for the past couple days. And I was about to say it, and I felt like, when you hesitate and
And
you're
then
like,
you just,
no. So I kind of
that's all
did
right
that. So I would love for you to give us your full
to
name
say
because
it.
it's a beautiful name.
I mean, it comes out much easier than it looks. It's Agyei-Owusu.
That's that's awesome. Like I love it. And
Thank
trust
you.
me, I was practicing. I had
I
it
wish
all
I, I wish you
figured
had gone for
out.
it. I would have
Oh
been
no.
interested to hear what you would have said.
Oh man. I'm not good at butchering. I don't like butchering names. It's one of those things. I've always had an odd name, so like even in Spanish, everybody butchers my name in Spanish.
Oh, okay. Now you scared me. I won't I won't say it. I was thinking, oh, it's pretty straightforward, but now that you've said it, there's probably some nuance to it that I won't catch. So I'll just leave it at Jayla. I hope I can get that one right.
Jaylah's perfect. In Spanish, they call me Hyla
Oh, okay.
because of the way that it's spelt.
Right. But how do you say it?
Jaylah.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
got it right. You got it. You're on point. It's my
Yeah.
family that just calls me Hyla all the time. I'm like, no, it's not Hyla.
Yeah. Sometimes not complicating things, not, you know, knowing too much helps. Because
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
if
why.
I'd taken the Hispanic context into it, I might have thought, oh, is it Hyla? But no, it didn't even cross my mind. I just thought Jayla.
Just to keep it simple. So I want
Yeah.
to get started and I want to talk a little bit about Zippy. Tell us about Zippy, where it was born, how it started, how you got the idea.
Well, where to start? Well, I'll say what Zippy is, and then I'll get into a bit of the background.
Yeah.
So Zippy is a B2B2C e-commerce fulfillment platform that seeks to revolutionize connectivity and last mile delivery in emerging markets in West Africa, like Ghana, which Ghana is where I'm from. So we've launched in Ghana, and the goal is to expand across the West Africa market. Now, how do we go about revolutionizing connectivity? So we're a delivery service that's based on an aggregation model, solar-powered electric vehicles, and battery swapping technology. Um, and that's the core. Those are the pillars of our service, our technology. And yeah, we can get into the details as we go along. The other part of your question was where Zippy started or how it started.
Yeah, how
Um,
did Zippy start? Was
that,
it a dream? Was it a situation you were put in with
yeah.
your family? What how did it begin?
Yeah, so that kind of needs me to go to the genesis. So who's Kwame? How have I arrived at where I am? So it might be a bit of a long-winded answer. But
That's okay. Go for
I grew up in
it.
Ghana. So my formative years were in Ghana. At age 18, I left to go to Stanford University.
Wow.
Um, so graduated Stanford in 2010 and then embarked on a journey that took me all over the world, building highly automated factories in the pharmaceutical industry. So that career brought me to China, where I've been for the last 13 years. And I always held that connection back to Ghana. Throughout my career, I was always looking for opportunities that could get me contributing to things going on in Ghana. That wasn't happening with my previous career. As I said, it sent me all over the world, except to except to Africa. Um, so being in China, I was seeing lots of opportunities, where I could adapt technologies or new industries and adapt them to the African market. So sort of around every corner, I kept thinking, wow, that would really solve problems in Ghana, solve problems in Africa. And one of the ones that I gravitated to was e-commerce and logistics. So China has a population of 1.4 billion and has one of the most advanced e-commerce industries in the world. Now, if you imagine how to get that many packages around such a large country, and they're able to do it so efficiently, it's just fascinating. And I could see straight away how it would solve so many of the problems that we have in Ghana. So at some point, I just thought, I'm either going to do it or I'm not. So I quit my job. I embarked on this entrepreneurial journey. I started up Zippy and sort of built it from the ground up. We launched officially last year, and we've kind of gone from strength to strength. So that's how Zippy got born. It was born out of my desire to really be part of the solution in Ghana, in West Africa, and to create opportunities. That's another one of the driving factors behind Zippy. Logistics, e-commerce can be such an engine for growth, can create so many thousands of jobs. So that's one of the motivations. That's one of the things that we want to see out of Zippy. So I said it would be a long-winded answer, but that's kind of how we got here.
No, I love hearing that because it actually, so many other questions pop up in my head. Like for me, I also think that it's so important to have the experience traveling. I think you see so many different things. How did that experience coming from Ghana to the US, experiencing the US, and not only experiencing the US, but experiencing it at one of the top universities? So that's a different perspective that's a whole story all in its own. How is going from Ghana to Stanford, but then going from Stanford to around the world.
Yeah. So I think the question is, how has that, I guess, shaped my
How's that shaped Kwame? Yeah, like as a person.
Yeah, it's a really good question, first of all. I think there have been lots of moments in my life that every time I think back, I think, okay, this really shaped how I think about things or shaped what motivates me. So I was lucky to go to a pretty good high school in Ghana. You need to, it was quite a stringent process to get into that high school. Luckily, I got in, and it's a Pan-African high school. And the motto of that school was knowledge in the service of Africa. So that's something that stuck with me, that I felt that there are a lot of capable people in Africa, and you see these people doing great things on the world stage, but not always in the service of Africa. So, you look at some of the top companies or global organizations. You look at Kofi Annan, who was at the United Nations Secretary General. Even in entertainment, you look at Virgil Abloh, who's of Ghanaian descent in the fashion world. And you see these names popping up, achieving amazing things. But I almost feel like the credit doesn't come back to Africa because it's being done out there. So, that shaped my view or my desire to, make things happen in Africa, to put Africa on the map, to put the spotlight on Africa. So that was one thing that shaped me. Being in the US as well, surrounded by so many smart people, so many passionate people. And again, I could see how invested everyone was in America and being very proud of America. And I thought, wow, we don't see this enough back where I'm from. Probably because there aren't that many feel good stories or success stories coming out of there. So again, I just, being caught up in their joy about things that were going on in America, I thought, wow, I wish we had this. I wish we could create these moments
Yeah.
for people back home. So that's also something that I remember very clearly. Yeah, and then of course traveling around the world, seeing amazing things, seeing entrepreneurial people, innovative people, sort of pushing the envelope of what can be done, what's possible. Again, I thought, okay, we need to do the same. We can't get left behind. We need to catch up, and we need to be part of these stories. So yeah, somehow as I've gone along, I've always connected my experiences and things I'm seeing back to, okay, we need to bring the Ghanaian, the African people along on all these different journeys.
So we're going to fast forward from traveling the world, kind of settling down in China, and starting Zippy as a founder. What's your experience been as a founder? Now you're not only a founder, but you're doing it here in the US while you're doing it in China, but you're doing it for Ghana. So how do
Yeah.
you, as a founder, how has that been?
Yeah, I definitely took the scenic route to this founder journey. It has its advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons, right? So again, as I said, being here, I'm at the forefront of some of these new technologies that are being tried out in relation to the logistics industry. Zippy is implementing technologies in Ghana that are probably only in the Chinese market, that are still new to other markets, right? So we're seeing these innovations as they happen, and very quickly thinking, how can these be adapted to Ghana, to Africa? So one example is our battery swapping technology. So how to describe the battery swapping technology? So imagine if with your phone, if you're out and about and you run out of power, that you don't need to be tethered to some power source, and as you see people in the airports or in different settings, sort of stuck to wherever the power outlet is, because that's where their phone's plugged in. But instead, you're able to go to a cabinet and just take a battery that you're able to swap out into your phone, and then you're on your way. So we're doing that, but for electric bikes, right? So one of the main concerns with going electric for transport and logistics is, what's the range? What's the battery range? How much can you achieve on a single charge? But once you introduce that swapping technology, the range is endless. As long as you can get to a battery swapping station, you just swap it out, and it's faster than filling gas into your motorbike or your car. Yeah,
That's amazing. And I know you've been doing big things already, putting Zippy on the map. Tell us about what you're currently working on and what you see in the future of Zippy.
yeah. So as I mentioned, we launched last year, but we've already gone from strength to strength. We've been growing our customer base at a very, very fast pace. We're growing about 50% every month. And we've already started fulfilling orders for the largest retailer in Ghana. That's a retailer called Malcolm. And we've also started with the fastest growing company in Africa, which is a company called Omni Retail. So they were recognized by the Financial Times, as the fastest growing company in Africa. And we're partnering with them to be their last mile delivery service. We've also got some things in the works that I can't talk about, because let's say the outlines of the terms or of the service are still being decided or settled on. But we're looking at major global e-commerce platforms that are looking to expand in Africa. So hopefully that's something we'll be announcing very soon. So I mean, we knew the need was there, we knew the demand was there, but the pace at which we've been able to prove ourselves and been able to, sit across the table from some of these major organizations, that's kind of surprised us in a good way. And we're certainly, looking forward to the challenge of meeting these requirements and growing from there.
How often does technology, because now we're going through a fast-paced version of what technology, especially with AI, how does that affect Zippy, or how is it being used? Because for some companies, it's like, I really don't like this. For others, it's like, I love it. It's been, super useful. How has that worked with Zippy?
So the honest answer is we're still exploring how AI can support us. I just had the conversation with our tech team about how AI can improve our productivity in terms of introducing new features, in terms of speeding up our development cycles. And my tech team, they say, for now, let's say the jury is out. They think, well, it looks cool, but maybe it's not mature enough yet, where it might cause us more issues than not. But it's a question that I'll keep asking, because I know the technology is maturing at such a pace that that answer today probably doesn't work tomorrow. We could be at a stage very quickly where actually we could develop our features twice as quickly, so that we're reacting very quickly to the market conditions or customer requirements or user behaviors, just to make sure that we're always at the forefront, that we're remaining competitive. So yeah, that's where we are with AI.
I know that there's not only with the changes with AI, you have other technologies. Is there anything that you are working with that you're excited about? Because there are other things in the works as well that sometimes you get a little bit more excited about certain things than others. Is there anything that you've been working with that you're like, this is amazing?
Yeah. I mean, I did already talk about the battery swap technology, which I don't believe is even in the US market.
Right.
I've seen in 1 or 2 countries in Asia, and it's something that's becoming a topic in Africa. I've seen 1 or 2 other places looking at it, but again, it's very early days, and it's part of the whole drive of going electric. A lot of things that are happening with Africa is that we're leapfrogging to the latest in technology. We're not necessarily following the same, let's say, development path that you've seen with developed countries. So that, even before we're talking about, let's say, a high penetration of cars or a high penetration of, say, hybrid cars, people are already looking ahead to going fully electric and applying electric vehicles to logistics, to transportation, to solve some of the problems that we have, especially with fuel price fluctuations, energy security. So this actually provides a solution for that, and we're seeing that become a focus.
It kind of sounds like a work smarter, not harder plan, where it's you take that look from the outside in, and you're like, all right, they already went through this mess. Let's take out the good stuff and let's use this and put it together to create something else.
Exactly. It's exactly that. So, we're not going through setting up all these brick and mortar stores or setting up these malls, because that's where people generally go to be exposed to new products or to I guess find their products. Now everything's online, so we've actually skipped that whole step of setting up all these huge infrastructure projects around, malls, box stores, outlets, things that you see in other countries. We've just gone straight from the mom and pop shops to e-commerce platforms, which are very easy to scale, easy to build, not as capital intensive, and perfect for the African economy or the African context.
How available is all of this technology in Ghana? Has it been like hard to get the technology, or has it been something that's pretty smooth sailing?
So I would say we're pioneers in terms of these technologies.
Oh, I
So
love that.
we're the only delivery service in Ghana that's all electric. We started only with electric vehicles, and that's how it's going to be. We didn't start out with gas-powered bikes or cars and then sort of progress into electric. We just skipped that step, as I was saying, and we're the only one that's completely electric. So yeah, we're pioneers, and for that reason, we're actually introducing a lot of these technologies. They weren't already available, and what we hope is that through us, they actually become available to businesses and individuals, and really to everyone.
How important, because now we're talking a little bit about community. How important has community been for Zippy and their growth in the last year?
It's been really important. So as I mentioned, the demand is there. We started Zippy by trying to understand what problems needed to be solved, what customers needed. So we went about identifying what the main pain points were for them. So as we've been solving these and delivering on our promise of solving these, we're getting really good feedback from the community. Some of the interesting posts that we've seen on X, for example, is someone saying, "Wow, Zippy has really changed my business for the sake of my business. I really hope that they survive."
Oh.
So we've got a lot of goodwill from businesses and individuals because we're actually having a huge impact on their businesses. What we're providing is reliability, affordability, and accessibility. So they're able to get our service on demand. We use fixed, transparent pricing, which is not something that's being done in Ghana. So they can actually forecast what their costs are going to be. They can plan that into their businesses, into their pricing, because they know that we stand by our prices and it won't change. The way we're able to do that is by having very close control over our cost of doing business. And that all ties into going electric, powering our batteries with solar. So we maintain a lot of control over our inputs. And that's how we're able to do that. And then being reliable, just doing what we say we're going to do. And the way we're able to do that is leveraging a lot of technology, a lot of software behind our service, so that we're able to track and monitor everything that's going on and react to any instances where things aren't going the way they should. And then we're able to engage with the customer immediately, saying, "Okay, here's what's going on. Here's how we're going about fixing it." And customers really love that. They love just, the engagement, the personability of it, that it's actually real people that they can engage with and that they can talk to, and they feel like someone's looking out for them.
Yeah, because everything seems to be get frustrated when I get nothing but machines and I'm trying to speak to actual human being that can actually understand my very complicated question.
Yeah.
I know there's an easier way to say things, but sometimes the complex side of me comes out, and the machine is not going to understand. They just want to know if I want an agent or if I want a refill. And I need to speak to somebody. That's what
Yeah.
I need.
and and we recognize that that's such an important element of the service that we're providing, and for that reason we're very focused on our delivery force. We call them delivery partners. That's something that we also do very differently. We want them to be part of the family. We don't have the model of them being contractors or outside of our business. We actually bring them in. We actually provide benefits. We actually make sure that they're being paid competitively, um, and that's very different from our competitors. And why do we do that? Because they're the face of the company. Um, you know, 80% of the time, customers are only interacting with our delivery partners. So we want our delivery partners to be happy about what they're doing. We want them to be proud of what they're doing and to take ownership of their jobs and what they're doing. And in so doing, they're able to project that feeling onto the customers. And yeah, so far it's been a winning formula for us.
I love how I hear the enthusiasm in your voice when you're talking about this particular aspect of Zippy, because it really goes to show how your heart is really in it with the community, with your people,
Yeah.
and building that. So I think that's a really beautiful thing that you can just hear it.
Mhm.
I know sometimes people say things and you're like, yeah, I don't believe you, but just hearing it from you, it's like you kind of took away the rest of my questions, because it was just like you can hear it in his voice. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
ask any more questions. Like you
No,
know that the
absolutely.
connection's there.
Yeah, and I know the guys. Like I go and I'm a very hands-on kind of leader. So I don't want to be sitting off in some office feeling important because I'm doing other more important stuff. I actually believe like that's the most important stuff, actually getting the service delivered, and they're the ones doing it. So I go and talk to them. I ask them how their day went. I asked them, do you feel that, you enjoy being at Zippy? Do you see yourself being here long term? Um, because I know that having them have those feelings or have that connection to the brand, to the company, is the way we're going to succeed. So, yeah, I definitely take it to heart. I organize football games with them, or should I say soccer?
That's
Uh,
awesome.
I'm very into soccer, and most of them are, and it's a very good way for us to connect because it breaks barriers. It makes them realize that I'm relatable. They can talk to me about whatever, and it also helps when I need to set them on the straight and narrow when things aren't going right,
Right.
because my messages don't always come as some guy who's sitting at the top somewhere and he's just coming to give us a hard time based on data or numbers that he's seen. No, I go to them and I say, hey, listen, I know this and that's going on with you, and I get that sometimes it might impact how you work, but we can't have this happening. This
Right.
affects the image, this affects the company, this affects your job, right? So you need to make sure that you're doing things the right way so we can build Zippy for all of us, right?
It's bringing the human side to the tech world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's very important, and you need to adapt your management style to the community,
Yes.
to your environment. So it's definitely something that I've learned. That's having worked in all these places. You wouldn't see that in some of the other environments I've worked in, but in Ghana, it's very important.
Yeah, no, and especially with these generations, before I feel like you would see where it's like you would learn from the older generation, whereas I feel like these new generations kind of come in and they're like teaching us, or like they're kind of like teaching everybody else because they pick it up
Yeah,
so
yeah,
differently, because this is their era, they're in the tech era,
yeah,
and we started the tech era. I'm not trying to age myself, but we started the tech era.
Yeah,
But seeing it expand so much has been quite interesting. So when you get to humanize that, and add, like like you said, the team building, the connection, the one-on-ones, it is really important.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so tell us how we can reach you, how we could reach Zippy, where we can get more information on Zippy. If we have other companies that would love to work with you, let us know all that juicy information.
So all of our social media handles are Zippy Delivery GH. You can find us on Instagram, X, Facebook. I believe we're focused on those for now, just based on the communities that we serve. And our website as well, zippy.com.gh. Yeah, definitely. As I've said, we like to engage. We like to connect with our customers or well wishers or anyone really who wants to give us some feedback. Drop us a message on any of those platforms, and we'll get back to you.
Any last words for anybody wanting to start their own journey as a founder?
That's a really good question. Um, I think when the motivations are right, the motivations behind a startup are right, there's so much you can achieve. You'll have so much drive. You'll see problems and you'll think, well, that's an opportunity. That's a chance for me to make this better. That's a chance for me to really set us apart from other players. So I think having the right motivations behind, don't get me wrong, for most things to be successful, for most businesses to be successful, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be a business that can pay for itself. It's not a charity. You're setting up a business. So that's important. But having the motivations underlying that business model or business strategy really gives you as a founder the drive to keep going, and it gives you a true north, so that as you're ducking and diving with the punches that the startup journey throws at you, you kind of know which direction you're heading in. You don't sort of lose course along the way. So yeah, I would say start it for the right reasons or to solve actual problems, and yeah, that should stand you in good stead.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kwame, for being with us on Tech It Up with Cafe Cultura. We're super excited to see what's going to happen with Zippy and the growth that's coming. I feel it in my bones. There's going to be so much growth this year because we're only at the beginning. We're only in Q1. So there's still,
I'm with
I
you
know.
on that. Cheers to that.
I
Cheers.
think, everybody's been a little iffy and scared about the beginning of the year, but I think, this is kind of typical in a different painting, if that makes sense, right? We
Yeah.
always have those questions, those what ifs, and I think that's what's happening now. So I'm excited to see where Zippy falls for the rest of the year and all the growth, because I can see the immense growth coming.
Thank you for the well wishes. Yeah, we'll definitely be getting back in touch. As we grow, just to continue
Oh
to share.
yeah.
We'll be looking
Oh yeah.
forward to it.
We'll be following Zippy and getting all the updates as soon as we get them, for sure.
Cool.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much,
Thank
Kwame.
you.
Thank you guys so much for being on another episode of Tech It Up with Cafe Cultura. I will see you guys all on the next episode. Jaylah, bye. Okay. All right, we're back.
Okay.
We're back,
Thank you
not
so much.
recording.
That was great. I enjoyed the conversation. It was
No,
really
thank you.